Happy Father's Day. Today I was looking for something that I could make that is good for shipping for the raffle, because we have the weekend raffle coming up. And I looked into these cookies that are made by this bakery. And interestingly, I had to do some research about how to pronounce this word because on Google it says Levain. And I've heard a guy on a YouTube video say Levain. And so I thought, I'll just call them. And they answered the phone, Levain. So that is how I'm going to pronounce it. So I'm going to attempt something close to Levain cookies. And the reason I'm not calling them exactly Levain is, number one, I don't have cake flour, which is something that it calls for. So I'm going to do a substitution, which I'll share with you. Number two, I don't have semi-sweet chocolate chips. I only have milk chocolate chips in the house, and I'm not going shopping. So we're going to do milk chocolate chip version of the Levain cookies. I'm not going to put in walnuts in the entire batch because the household here is not a fan of nuts in the chocolate chip cookies. But I will do some that have walnuts because that's what the Levain bakery does. All right, so that's the plan. All of the recipes that I saw online call for starting with cold butter. So it's very difficult to cream by hand cold butter. So I thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity to take out the big KitchenAid, and we're going to work with that today. So woohoo! We're going to start with 2 sticks of cold butter on my nice surfboard cutting board, and I'm going to cut it into cubes before I put it into the bowl. Just a reminder that on the YouTube channel, I do list the ingredients and brief instructions about how to do the recipe. So if you watch the video and then you just want to grab the ingredients, you can just hop over to the YouTube channel and subscribe, and then you can see all the ingredients. All right, so I have this chopped into little cubes on my surfboard, and I'm going to slide them into the mixer. Next, we add a half cup of white sugar. So I'm going to do 2 scoops with my 1/4 cup. And then 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. So I've got my light brown sugar. 3. All right. Now I am to slowly, I've never really, Mamma mia. Oh gosh. Take 2. Slowly. And I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So I'm slowly increasing the speed. Looks good. Here, come see. Come take a peek. Lift this up. So this is what we've got now. And it's tough. So now I have to add eggs into this. So I'm gonna keep it in here. I'm gonna take egg number 1 and I'm gonna crack it right in. And egg number 2. I'm gonna speed things up a little bit. Looks good. Oh, it looks nice and creamy now. Come take a peek. Now I'm going to switch to this paddle, whatever we call this thing, I do not know, but I'm switching to this one. And I'm going to add in the dry ingredients. The recipe calls for 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 cup of cake flour. And because I don't have cake flour, I looked up how to make cake flour from regular flour. So I'm going to start by creating the 1 cup of cake flour first. So I take a cup of regular flour. Let's flatten it out like so. Now, next I'm supposed to subtract 2 tablespoons of flour from this. I'm going to take 2 tablespoons and put it back. Okay, then I'm going to get my sifter. I don't have a sifter, so I'm making a sifter out of this. Replace the 2 tablespoons of flour with 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put back 1, 2. All right, I want to kind of sift it with a knife like that. So I pour some in, put it in like that, and then I take my knife and I make a little sifter. I don't know if this really makes any difference whatsoever, but we're having fun. So I've got 1 cup of sifted cake flour in theory, and I'm going to throw that in. And then I will take 2 cups of all-purpose flour as is. I'm going to put that in. 1, 2. Here we go. And then the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. So I'm changing my measuring spoon to the teaspoon measurement, and I'm going to take 1 more teaspoon of cornstarch. And the last dry ingredient is baking soda. So I will grab a teaspoon of baking soda and put that in. So I just took a fork here and just mix up the dry ingredients on top before they get into the batter. And now I will put this in and I'll start it up slowly on the lowest speed. And that's so far so good. Come see. Here we go. So we're going to mix this up. Not too crazy. Next, I add 2 cups of chocolate chips. I'll measure them for the heck of it, but I would probably put the whole bag in here. Let's see, 1. Great. 1 bag equals 2 cups for future reference. There we go. And in this goes. And mix it on the slowest speed. And hopefully nothing jumps out. Okay. Okay, I'll stop that. Lift it up. Now before I put these on cookie sheets, I'm just going to move a few things out of the way. I've got my cookie sheets lined with parchment paper, and one of the guys online who I watched do this recipe actually used an ice cream scoop to make his cookies. But what I noticed is that his final cookies came out very smooth on top, and the Levain bakery cookies actually kind of have a little bit more of a lumpy look to them. So I want to make it more like that. So I'm just going to use a spoon and I'm going to scoop a big hunk of dough like so. Plop it so that it's not quite so perfectly round. And it's not so perfect on top on smooth. You see the not smoothness on top? That's what I'm going for. Just a hunk of dough. a hunk of sticky dough. Let's put the first batch in and get it going. For the second tray, I'm going to add the walnuts. So I'm going to take whole walnuts, and then rather than chop them in a food processor, I'm just going to pour them onto the surfboard. Maybe just use a knife to break them. So I don't want them to be really finely chopped. So let's take about a cup. Let me get a big knife, like this. And then I'm just gonna give them a little chop. So I'm not going to chop them too finely. I'm keeping them pretty chunky. So I'm going to slide these all in. Okay, here we go. Let's lock it. All right, let's give that a little mix. I might bring this KitchenAid out more often now. So tray number 2 will have walnuts added in, and we'll just plop those on. So I made these pretty large sized, and it yielded about almost 12. This last one is going to be a little bit smaller. The mini Levain cookie is right here, the tiny one. So now you can see roughly what size these are. They're big, and I'm excited. So let's put these in, and we'll see how we go. They're supposed to bake for about 12 minutes. I never really get too hooked on the time. I like to do it by what it looks like. When it starts to look right, just browned on top, and maybe even if I touch the top and it doesn't sink in too much. So I'm going to check on them. I'm going to do a little tick-tock dance, and I'll be right back. Because they look so good. Let me show you. Oh my God, look at that. They really look like the real thing. I'm excited. Whew, let me get the other ones. Oh my God. Look at that. Yes. Come on in.
Hi.
They're gonna try it. Have a taste. Let's get it in it. What do we think?
Wow. It's like perfectly crunchy but melty, right?
Good description.
I am so excited.